is to make all of this possible. Like, they're supportive of creating the ordinance for the alteration of public spaces, which is a good win so far. Sige, next. What you can do, on the other hand, is I want you to create your urban diaries. So take photos, take videos, take sketches. Next slide. An example of an urban sketch. This is in Bunting, Pasig. One of my friends just did it for me. Nasabi ko, observe it for me. He lives in Pasig. So yeah, make all of those documentations as to how your city looks like today. And then later on, when you compile all of these, when you assess all of these, then you can create transformation that you want to see. Next. Just an inspirational thing from Janet's Hedican of New York. Instead of waiting for years of planning, studies, and computer models to get something done, we've done it with paint and temporary materials. And we can do it lighter, we can do it quicker, we can do it cheaper. Next. Okay, so just a short plug, UP Plano. So this is what we're doing tomorrow. If you want to join us, we have a walking tour at 2 p.m. sa Barangay Concepcion Dos. So yeah, join us and help us with the urban diary, help us with the urban sketches or notes. And we have a few volunteers coming. But if you want to join, please do. Sige, next. So then, okay, and let's collaborate. Please like us on Placemate, PH on Facebook. Next. And yeah, thank you. So I'm gonna call on my US fellow now. Hi, Joe. You want to present or react? Oh. Thank you, guys. Hey. I know you guys will get stiff-necked just looking at him. I do.
Hello.
Hi, Joe.
So very happy to be here. Thank you to Gene for hosting. And just, I know everybody's thinking this. Yes, I am the shortest person from my office. And, so just kind of, I want to just give a little short presentation about one of the things that I'm working on right now in my office as a conservation land manager. And it kind of follows along with what Gene was just talking about in the citizen-led aspect of this, and also the idea of promoting ways to help the most vulnerable people in our communities. So this is the next slide, please. So just to give you another shot at where Northampton is. We're in New England, in the northeast part of the United States. Next slide. And in our area, we're predominantly rural, but we're within 3 hours of New York and Boston. Next slide. So this is our city hall and downtown. It's pretty quaint. We're a small city of about 28,000 people. So we're a very, very small city, but we still have problems that cities have. Next slide. A little bit more, give you a flavor of what it looks like. So this is the Connecticut River on the top left. It's our main, the lungs of our community. We are in a climate where we get very cold, about -20 or so in the winter, and very hot in the summer, about 35. And we also have 5 universities in our little area. So there are a lot of students that come and go, and they bring a lot of good things to our communities, and they bring a lot of things that are also challenging. So we have to factor that into our work. So we have a lot going on. Okay, so like I said, we have about 28,000 people in Northampton. It's 93 square kilometers. We have probably a pretty centralized urban core, and then a lot of forest that surrounds it. So of that 93 square kilometers, we have about 16 square kilometers of conservation land. And so that's my role in the city is to maintain that land, to reduce the liability, to make it more available for the citizens, and find ways to engage with citizens to help them to have stewardship of that land. Next slide. So I wanted to show you one project of a new property that we just acquired last year, and what we're thinking about of ways to try to make this available. So this property in red is just about a third of that property, shown on this slide. It's 56 acres, so it's like a square kilometer wide. And we don't look for agricultural land specifically, but sometimes it's included in the land that we purchase. And so when we have agricultural land, we try to find farmers who would like to work on it. And we engage with the local farming community, find people who are interested in land and can show that they would like to take care of that land. In exchange for doing that, we offer a no-cost license. So we don't charge them money for the land, we just ask for them to take care of the land and keep it in good health and good use. And so here's a case where this has been a hay field for 50 years, and before that it had some other uses. And it has some challenges. There's a lot of invasive species that are starting to creep in and close off the area. And it's a pretty wet area, so there are those small drainage canals. So it's not ideal for everyone, so you have to find somebody who wants to use it. Next slide. So one of the things that our biggest challenge is the city doesn't like to own land in other communities. So that line that goes right down through the middle of the farm field separates my city of Northampton from the next town of Hatfield. And so we chopped that property and gave it to a conservation organization that can work in that community. So we don't own the land on the right, we only own the land on the left, but it's truly one field. So it adds a little bit of complexity to it. So next slide. So lots and lots of words. So one of the things I'm working on is looking at ways to engage with nonprofits in our community who have interests in seeing diversity in ownership in properties. So I'm working on a collaboration with a couple of these organizations to try and find a way that we can use this land not just for one farmer, but for many farmers. And so in our region, we have a lot of Latina immigrants, mostly from El Salvador and Guatemala, and we are interested in creating like a pilot program where we can make this land available to a wide group of people so they can establish themselves as farmers, grow food from themselves, grow food that they may be not able to eat locally, but get it from these things that they're used to from their home, and also to develop some equity so that they can have a business or prepare food for home, prepare food for a restaurant, or prepare food for sale. One of the problems that we have in terms of social equity in the USA is diversity of land ownership. We are a country of 40% or more minority, and less than 5% of the farmland is owned by those minorities. So there's a disproportionate amount of land available, and it's very difficult for people to find land to farm. Next slide. So here's kind of a pilot idea of what we talked about with these organizations, of how we can perhaps look at ways to expand over time the amount of land that could be available to farmers in our area, that'll over time they can use the space to increase the amount of arable land that they can use. So in the first example, we just start small and have just a little area with a small amount of parking, no facilities really, where you can make some small garden plots and people can begin to grow. And then on the next slide, we'll take a larger area. And so this whole time, we can engage with a more commercial farmer to use the areas in light purple, but the areas in dark blue become available for the Latina community. And so in this case, it shows that now we've produced a shed and a parking area, they've made a well, They have maybe an opportunity to sell food on the property. They're putting a larger part of the parcel into use. And then in yellow at the bottom, we've created a trail. So we're keeping public access available this whole time. So people can go for a hike, they can come visit the farm, they can have multiple experiences on the same property. Thanks. And then finally, maybe 3 years in, we've developed a second parking area. We've moved the trailhead because it's not always ideal to have people walking through the middle of the farm. And we've increased the size of the shed in the parking area. And now the community can develop this parcel in a way that would better serve them and maybe be able to make it more of a commercial enterprise. And then, thank you, that's all.
Thanks, Joe. So yeah, from our group in Northampton, I hope you learned something on public spaces and conservation. So now I would like to call on our last fellow who has been patiently waiting on the side for his turn. So let's welcome Francis Gasgonia.
Hey, thank you for waiting. I'll make this quick. 5 slides lang yung prepare ko. More of a visual person. Kasi So, kamusta lahat?
Good.
May na-pick up ba tayo?
Yep.
Sulit ba yung biniyahin natin? Ako, parang wala akong narinig.
Yes.
Gawin natin sulit yan. So, I made this map. This is a placement map I made during our fellowship. So, there were about, how many of us? 12? 20. Yeah, but 20. There were 20 Southeast Asian young professionals in the field of environmental sustainability. So we made, our flight time was 27 hours from Manila all the way to Washington, D.C. So if you're planning to participate, apply for the professional fellowships from the United States Embassy, be prepared for the long-haul flights. But it's nice. You have free drinks on the flights. So sulit siya. So anyway, so we made our way to Washington, D.C. It's my first time, a first-time traveler to the United States. So I'm very excited to see Washington, D.C. and all of those buildings you see in Independence Day being blown up and all of that amazing sites being blown up. They're actually real. It's not a conspiracy. This is actually, these buildings are real. And I like how our forefathers, our planning forefathers, made Washington D.C. It's very nice and very inspiring to see. So you see, we were placed in different states all over the United States, and I was placed, me and a fellow from Cambodia, Sumsuri. We flew to Kentucky. We went to Frankfort, Kentucky. And we explored actually a lot of parts of Kentucky for 5 weeks, where I learned more about how they make their parks and how they manage their parks and how they map their parks and everything. So my main objective coming into this fellowship was to understand how their park system worked. Because I'm more of a mapper, so my concentration was how to make these trail maps in the United States and how could I apply them. And how many of you here has used a map in the last couple of days or even today? How many has used their maps? See, all of us use our maps. Could be digital or could be paper. We always use maps. And in the United States, they like their maps. Could be digital or printed, especially trail maps. Because you can find in these maps vital information about where you can get food, water, where you can park, where are the ranger stations, and where are the interesting points of view. But here in the Philippines, it's rare to find those. Maybe if you've used, how many of you have used a Namria map, a topography map of Namria while you're trail hiking? Maybe I'm old. I still use while doing Boy Scouts, doing orienteering. But there's a lot of potential in mapping our parks in the Philippines, and that's what I learned in the United States. And next slide, please. I'd like to show them about this. This is the National Park System of the United States. Currently, if I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong, there are 58 national parks all over the United States, and about 10,000 more state-level parks. And I don't know, God, how many city or county-level parks there are in the United States. For us, in the Philippines, we currently, before the expanded, how many of you have heard about the Expanded National Integrated Protected Area Systems Act? ENIPAS. So most likely environmental planner. Okay. How many of you want to be a licensed environmental planner in the future? Planning to take the board exam? So okay, good. So start your reading now of the new laws, especially the ENIPAS law. So it's just to show you where we're situated. This is Kentucky, and I went to a state park, a national park, and all over the different city and county managed level parks in Frankfort, Kentucky. I went to National Mammoth Cave Park in Kentucky. National Mammoth Cave is so far, according to official records, the Mammoth Cave National Park of the United States is the longest mapped cave system in the world. Longest, not necessarily the biggest openings, which is found in Vietnam and also in China last time I checked, but it's the longest cave system that is mapped all over the world. And we went there, and the tourism potential and the estimated, I talked to the ranger park there, they had 500,000 visitors annually in that park. And it's easy to go there because there are maps that you can easily access all over the internet. This one I got from the internet because they provide these maps for free for both educational and tourism purposes. Then I went to a state level park called the Red River Gorge. It's a beautiful place. If you're into rock climbing, if you're into Vera Ferrata or canoeing, you can do it there. So while I was looking there, there's many different trails within that park that depending on your level of difficulty and what type of scenery you are looking into, which is good because there's a different type of flavor for everyone in that system, and you can enjoy whatever it is that you are looking for. So precisely that, the United States is way ahead of their park system management, and I learned a lot when I was going there. And the next photo will show you our beloved mayor. So he's a cool guy. He's a down-to-earth guy. I think this is the only place that I've been to. Even if you're working here in the Philippines, most of the mayors, maybe most of the mayors in the United States are just normal people. They don't have this air of entitled authority. Like we were having drinks with this guy just in the bar, like a normal person. You can interact with them and talk to your problems about them. There's no sense of entitlement, no bodyguards, no long entourage, no sense of royalty. It's all about just I'm a citizen given this temporary power to lead and manage our city. And what's good about their system as well, it's a city manager-led type of local government. I think that's unique as well in the United States. That is different from us. Because for us, the city administrator in the Philippines is appointed by the elected mayor. But in the United States, it's actually a professional job to be a city manager or county manager. You get selected by a board of co-equal voted individuals in the local government, where you assign a particular executive manager to handle your day-to-day affairs in your local governance. So there's a good check and balance in the local governance. And the next slide, please. This is our working shot. This is one of the few photos I found that I was caught actually working in our placement. We did a lot of work. I did a lot of mapping. We mapped trails for about 3 to 4 days. And Sarah, the lady on my right, she's holding a Trimble R1 receiver. It's in her pocket, and I'm using an Android phone connected to the receiver, and we're tracking the trails and also taking note of the points of interest. You can see in the photo, all over the trails that I found that I walked in the Frankfurt city, they have numbered points of interest where you can follow along with a paper map or on your phone. For example, on one trail part that we walked into, your QR codes, it did these wayfinding posts that you can take a snapshot and it will automatically show you like a quick history of that place or a particular interesting point about this particular tree, the variety of this plant, or any interesting historical event that happened here. This one is on a American Civil War fort. So we walked for the whole day, mapping the trails and taking note of the different particular remnants of the Civil War fort. And I think this is something that we can utilize here in the Philippines so that we can enhance the experience. It's not just about going to the woods, going to the bush, and walking up and seeing the summit. So far, how many of you here like going outdoors, hiking, climbing mountains? And if you ever experienced walking up mountains and climbing, it's just a long walk up. It's just a long, tiring walk up. And you get a few glimpses of good points of view here and there. But if you don't have a guide or someone knowledgeable about that place or a nice map that can show you what's happening in this particular place, it doesn't enhance the experience of climbing. And for now, what we're looking into now, because what I learned in parks management in the United States is now about creating a leisure quality of life. That's one of my big takeaway. It's not about just making, when we have parks, it's about ensuring quality of life. Now it's about a leisure quality of life. We're now developing a leisure quality of life by enhancing the experience of going back to nature, which we have a lot. So to show you the next slide, this one is from the old NIPAS law, the old National Integrated Protected Area System law, that enacted into law 35 national parks. So you're familiar with our protected area system laws? So yung mga pumasa ng board exam, alam yan. Well, for new information, the NIPAS law enacted 35 national parks. But also there are natural monuments, there are protected landscapes and seascapes in that law, and other classifications depending on the level of protected area. And the new law now, the expanded NIPAS, which was enacted, I think it was a couple of months ago, and DNR. Anyone here from DNR? Okay, no one from DNR. DNR now under the Biodiversity Management Bureau, they are now tasked to prepare the assessments of the 99 plus new national parks. So imagine we have 35 national parks now who don't have adequate land use maps, trail maps, and now we're adding 99 new protected areas that don't have adequate environmental assessments, ecosystem assessments, land use maps, and trail maps. But hopefully, the BNB, the Biodiversity Management Bureau, the Protected Area Management Board, will be working on making those work. But as citizens, we also have, and also as professionals, we can engage with the national government in assisting them in with these trail maps. Because you can see on my next slide, this one now is all of the mountains in the Philippines. Could you imagine how many have you here climbed at least 5 mountains? 10? 5, 10? Maybe I think I was maybe around 10, 15. I couldn't remember. Imagine how many mountains. Those tiny dots here are the measured peaks. But you'll notice there are blank areas here and here and here. Why do you think there are blank areas without any? Even though we can identify the elevation using satellite imagery, but there are no official measurements of mountains yet here in this area and here. Why do you think so? Any guesses why we can't identify the peaks of these areas? It's because of peace and order, exactly. So those areas are where our insurgencies are, especially in the northeastern Mindanao, southwestern Mindanao, and Samar, the hotbeds of our insurgencies. So many of our environmental concerns coincide with our social and political, economic, social and economic issues in the Philippines. And the problem is, that is also where the areas are mostly under environmental degradation. And you'll see here, this is where also some of the major mining concessions are applying for their permits, especially here in Surigao, Agusan, the Norte, and Dinagat Island here. So many of these areas are under threat from environmental exploitation are also where should our environmental resources be protected as well. And this is what I'm trying to do with my challenge here when I returned from the US. I knew that from my learning in the US, it's possible to try and map out the trails of all these mountains if everyone, because I think the latest research that more and more young Filipinos are going outdoors. They like doing selfies in beautiful mountain peaks, views, protected seascapes, landscapes. They like taking photographs and documenting them. But what if we can harness all of that information and try to turn that into actual usable mapping information and use those for conservation? And that's the challenge I'm currently trying to do, and trying to harness the power of the crowd through open trail mapping by sharing the GPS tracks that you have, the photos that you have, and taking note of which areas that are being harvested, where wood is being harvested illegally, where you think illegal small-scale mining is happening. You can check those out. And through the crowd, through the volunteer effort of everyone in the climbing community, in the outdoor community, we could hopefully map out every national park that we have and protect them for our next generation. So that is very important. It's always for the next generation. But at the same time, we can enjoy a few selfie, one or two on the peaks. So how many of you guys have been to Mount Apo? Oh, you should go to Mount Apo. It's a difficult climb, but it's beautiful as well. Mount Canlaon. Canlaon, yeah, I like going to Mount Canlaon. Mount Pulag, most popular now is Mount Pulag. And so many others I can name. If some of these points are named, some of these points are still unclassified, and some of the mountains are still not yet open to the public because of peace and order, as well as the trails are not yet established. And this is something that we should enhance, because this is one of our greatest assets and resources that we can tap into for social and economic development through these trail maps. So thank you. If you have any questions, we can start now.
Okay, thanks, Francis. Okay, before we start with the Q&A, I'd like to acknowledge the presence of two of our batchmates, but those who are in the governance track of YSEALI Pro Fellows, Vico Soto over there, and Chris De Los Santos, who is here on the right. Yes, so thanks for coming and supporting. And before we get to the Q&A, sorry, kudos kita. Kasi we have snacks sa my right, your left part of the room. So we can get some snacks before we go into the Q&A para makain tayo. So, please.
Oh, parang di kayo galit.